My name is Chase McPherson. I'm gay, and evidently, I was the last person to figure it out. This is What Do You Want From Me, the podcast all about me, but directed by you. You tell me what aspects of my life you want to hear about, and I attempt to entertain you for a short while. This episode is sponsored by no person or entity, probably because this series is unsponsored. There's not a how-to guide about coming out. At least there wasn't in 1997 when I attempted to come out to friends and later to family. If there had been, I would have done everything differently. As it was, my coming out experience was clumsy, overdramatic, some might even call it at times traumatic. If there was an actual definitive how-to guide that every gay person must abide by, I'm sure I would have broken every single rule. Kind of like in kindergarten, you learn basic safety walking to and from school. You look both ways before crossing the street, and you don't walk out in front of a moving vehicle. This is episode 2, Never Come Out in a Moving Vehicle. I grew up in a very sheltered atmosphere. The first 7 years of it was spent solely with my grandmother and great-grandmother. Now, some people argue that male homosexuality, or the gay, as it can be medically known, is a consequence of having no male role models in the child's life. True, there were 2 incidents in which I got into trouble for getting into makeup. On one occasion, I was about 4 years old, and in my defense, I was getting bored waiting on the Mary Kay lady's couch, and the colored goop looked a lot like candy. You must understand, a lot of my kindergarten-era mischief involved things that look like food or were food for other organisms. Thinking lipstick would taste just like fruit roll-ups is not that far of a stretch of the imagination. The second makeup incident took place when I was 5. Again, I was bored. This time, I did know what I was putting in and around my mouth, but this was when the Batman movie trailer was all over television and the Joker was a very memorable character to try and emulate. Anyway, I was really into the Ninja Turtles in that time. I didn't really know what they were. I got that they were turtles and that they were mutants. I learned to read at age 2, you see, and comprehension soon followed. I also understood that the boys in my age group really liked them, and that was good enough for me. I actually still have their autographs from when they visited Mr. Gaddy's Pizza in Pampa back in 1990. I had some serious street cred in the halls of Horace Mann Elementary for about 3 whole days after that. A girl even pursued me in elementary school. I didn't respond favorably. Not because she was a girl, you understand. It was because she was an absolute finger-in-the-socket crazy lunatic. She was loud, she was obnoxious, and she had overly permed hair. Nobody could stand her. I think I even got a little pity from some of the other girls in class. In 3rd grade, someone had the bright idea of doing a boy-girl dance, and right away, everyone started pairing off like some sort of predetermined destiny. I was looking around in total confusion. Am I supposed to just randomly choose someone to want to dance with? I picked a girl named Valerie, one of the 2 quietest and therefore nicest girls in the grade, and for the 2 weeks or so before the dance, I asked her almost daily if she would dance at least once with me. Pretty damn bold of me, to be honest. And finally, on the day itself, she gave in. The dance lasted all of 15 seconds when one of the other girls caught first sight of us and screamed in shock. A similar thing happened in 6th grade. As a Valentine's Day fundraiser, the cheerleaders were selling carnations for boys to buy for girls, and I bought 2 for Heather, the other quiet girl. Well, she was so flummoxed by the implications, she wouldn't speak to me again for months. What those implications were never really made clear to me. It was around this time the gay jokes started. One of the most memorable was something along these lines. Okay, Jace, it's a fill in the blank. Every answer is been gay, okay? Question 1. What do you use for a muscle ache? Been gay? Good. Old people sometimes smell like what? Been gay. Good. Chase has been gay. Wow, I can't believe you're gay. Here's the thing, I did not get the joke. As part of the sheltered life I led, I only knew of one definition of gay. Happy. Joyful. Happy. Happy. Joy. Joy. So off I went to the library dictionary one day and, oh, it also means that. I don't remember feeling insulted by it, just irritated that someone was making fun of me in general. Then Ellen happened about a year later. Immediately, I was bombarded with realization after realization. This is a big thing to be gay. It makes some people mad for some reason. God, people can even be killed for being gay? Why? None of it made sense. And then it made total sense once my body started producing testosterone. Boy, did it make total sense. Once I put all the pieces together and understood that, yeah, I am gay, it also seemed to make total sense for me to be open and honest about it. All this drama going on with Ellen had to be just Hollywood nonsense, right? So, for rule number 1 of coming out, don't tell more than one person at a time. Rule number 2, tell them in a private setting. It was a cool January morning, and our quote-unquote homeroom was actually 40 minutes of waiting in the gym auditorium for our actual first classes to start. My group was about 7 to 8 band nerds in the top of the bleachers. Hey gang, I almost certainly did not say it like this, but I know the group gathered together and told them what I just learned about myself. The reaction was interesting. There wasn't much shock, as I recall, more like a sort of, yeah, yes, that makes sense. It certainly drummed up a lot of attention among the group, and I was all too happy to answer questions to the best of my ability. Do you have a crush on anyone? Suddenly, I froze, and I found myself thinking back to the Rose incident and the boy-girl dance. It was an immediate expectation then for me to be paired up with someone, and here it was again. Sure, I said, and with a complete and total absence of common sense, I looked at the seniors coming in from the ground floor, and I pointed at one of the more attractive guys there, and identified him by name. I thought nothing of it. I was a 7th grader. This was a senior I almost never saw. For a brief 40-minute period, I was the center of attention and hubbub of my small group of friends. But what I didn't count on, somewhat stupidly in hindsight, was the sort of bullhorn effect there is in talking in a half-empty gym from the very top bleacher. Fast forward a couple of hours, and virtually the whole school knew. Kids were suddenly avoiding me as I approached, as if I had some sort of contagious disease. After I passed, you could hear my name being whispered. And strangely, ever since pointing out my so-called crush, it was almost unavoidable to see him between class changes and at the end of the day. Then came the bullying. Most of it has thankfully gone by and faded with the passage of time, but 2 incidents remain clear in my mind, and they tantamount to sexual harassment and sexual assault. I may go into them at a later time, but for the purposes of this story, all I will say is that I never reported them to the school or to my grandmother. And I easily could have done either. One of my faults growing up was being a bit of a tattletale. I was stronger as a snitch than I was with my fists. And I could have told my grandmother because at the time she was a substitute teacher and was a short walk away nearly 40% of the time. Despite the very close relationship we had, she being my legal guardian and all, anything concerning sex and sexuality just seemed immediately unwise to discuss with her. I had no reason to believe that, but I did. So these things did not get back to her. But one day, it all came to an abrupt and cold head. It was a chilly Saturday morning, and we were coming back from our weekly trip out to the grocery store in my mom's F-150 pickup. I was just daydreaming out the window, listening to the radio, when suddenly the volume went down. "There's a rumor going around campus you're telling people that you're gay," she said. "Is that true?" I had a short few seconds to make a decision. Lie? I don't lie to my grandmother. Besides, it's such a small school district, all 13 grade levels on a campus that's barely a quarter mile long. I said yes. She slammed on the brakes, and the truck skidded off partway towards the ditch. It was a lonely country road, so no one was around to mistakenly think we were crashing. The 9 words she said changed our relationship forever. I didn't raise my grandson to be a homo. I might as well have been hit by the truck. Her voice seemed so angry, so different. I clammed up and silent cried all the way back home, running in fear to my room the second we parked in the driveway. The rest of that day was utter humiliation. Hearing phone calls from my grandmother going out to church members, my mom coming in for a one-on-one talk, hearing her say she knew I masturbated and that didn't mean I was gay, that was of particular cringeworthiness. In that single day, my belief that I could talk to my small family about anything flew out the window. It began a long and painful stretch of discord between us. Things I wanted to talk about, but didn't. Advice I wanted to seek, but couldn't. All because those 9 words kept echoing in my memory. Now keep in mind, I was just starting my teen years. There were still about 5 years or so of school left, and though they didn't disown me or turn me out on the street, which makes my experience substantially better than many other kids my age, living with people you didn't fully trust right on the cusp of puberty made for a lot of tense situations. But somehow, some way, we all just sort of kept going. The living situation improved day by day, week by week, even after my mom's alcoholism cost us the farm and my grandmother and I moved to a new rental home. The topic of sexuality only came up once more, junior year of high school, when prom time came around, and the principal, unprompted, announced that only boy-girl couples would be allowed, which of course made a lot of eyes go in my direction. I told that to my grandmother. "You're not telling people you're gay again, are you?" "Ugh, no, Nana, geez," I said. That time, I was lying. After the junior high incident, there had been a lot of backtracking on my first announcement, between myself and my folks speaking quote-unquote on my behalf. But during high school, I started coming out again, this time to one person at a time and in private. That really allowed me to have the safety net I had lacked the last time. If I had problems related to growing up gay, I had a handful of people I knew I could talk it out with. And in those last years of school, I was able to take advantage of that, especially when it came time for my very first date. But that's another possible story for another possible time. The mental strain of admitting I was gay to my grandmother strained our relationship for many years. But at some point, her views softened. Fast forward now to the present day. She blessed my marriage to my husband. She considers him a part of the family. She gets upset at anti-gay views when they come up on news. I only brought up the incident with her once in the intervening years. She denies ever having said those words. I know her well enough to know she's not necessarily lying to me. She has since learned what hells I've gone through in school and in college, again, not from me, but from other people having told her. And I think she retconned the incident out of her memory. Traumatic memory loss, but for her. She's apologized in a blanketed sense for everything I went through without mentioning that specifically, and she said she could have fought harder on my behalf when it came to dealing with the bullying at school. It's the best I will get, and since she accepts me now, I can't keep holding on to the disappointment and hurt she caused me then. And evidently, I made things easier on the kids at school. After I graduated, no fewer than 2 other kids at that small country school district came out openly. More have come out since, and that's great for them, but sometimes I look back bitterly at my experience and wonder why I had to be the, what word would you call it? Martyr? Scapegoat? Trailblazer? Pioneer? For being the first one. I still look back and wish my situation had been different. Even today, I dream I'm back in high school, but I have a more accepting school to go back to, and I wonder how different things would have wound up had I not been in that particular era. A bit of a downer, this one, I know, and I apologize for that. Again, I feel like mine has been a life full of more drama than most, so this podcast is sort of therapy for me. But I promise, there are better memories and funnier stories to come. We just need to find them together. Reach out to me on Twitter. The show's account is What Do You Want Cast, and that's the letter U, not the word. And my own handle is by Chase McPhee. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on Podbean or wherever you happen to find me. Until next time, folks, I'm Chase McPherson. Remember to eat your greens, look both ways, and drive safely. Be well.
A production of D20NN Studios.